Welcome to the Healthier Tech Podcast, the show about building a healthier relationship with modern technology. Now here are your hosts, R. Blank and Stephanie Warner.
Today's guest is JJ Flizanes, an empowerment strategist and the host of several podcasts, including People's Choice Awards nominee Spirit, Purpose, and Energy. JJ started her career as a personal trainer and was later named Elite Traveler Magazine's Best Personal Trainer in Los Angeles in 2007. As an empowerment strategist, she now focuses on helping her podcast listeners, community, and clients discover their purpose and power so they can feel good and thrive right now. Welcome, JJ, to the Healthier Tech Podcast.
Well, thank you, guys. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, it's great having you. Yeah. So just as a starting point for the conversation, could you talk a bit about what an empowerment strategist is and what you do?
Sure. I think my partner in crime might have rewritten that bio, which is super cool because he didn't give me a copy of it. So as a personal trainer and before that, an actress, and before that, just a curious person looking for truth as a truth seeker in life about all things, looking at the TV as a young person and thinking, well, if they can do that, why can't I do that? Or going to church and thinking, well, why do we do this and you do that? So I'm just always led by curiosity of understanding and through learning about human behavior and then working with the body and learning all the sciences of the body. It didn't account for why people wanted to have a different body, why they wanted to lose weight, why they wanted to look better, or why they wanted to, whatever their goals were. And again, always questioning what else is there, what more is there. I learned the science of the body to apply to the body. So let's say someone with back pain, I would go through, okay, structurally, were they structurally aligned and had they seen a chiropractor and are they good to go there? Yes. Okay. Are they muscularly in balance? Okay. Yes, there. Are they nutritionally and hormonally in balance from the endocrine system and looking at biochemistry? Okay, yes, there. There's a certain amount, then looking at ergonomics. Okay, do they have their ergonomics in place at their desk and how they walk and how they sit? And okay, yes, there. So why do they still have back pain? Well, that's another level deeper than the external. That deals with the internal, which was my jam, but I didn't know that at the time. So I've been a personal trainer and I stuck with it as long as I did. And I'm still very interested in it, but it's one factor of a multi-factored person and your whole life. And there was always this feeling as a trainer. I really didn't like the fitness industry because the focus was on how you looked. And even though that wasn't really ever the point of view I came from, yes, I care about how I look. Yes, I want to plan for that. But that's not all of who I am. And who cares if it's 5 pounds, 10 pounds? But who cares? If you love the way you look and love the way you feel, what's a number? It wasn't about that for me ever. It was about longevity. It was about making sure, and I know you guys taught, with what you do, you understand the whole, like what I do now and what I'm exposed to now affects me 5, 10, 20, 50 years from now. So if I can do better now to plan for what I feel like and look like and quality of life 10, 15 years from now, why wouldn't I do that? And especially as starting out like in the personal training industry as a 20-something-year-old teaching other trainers, I had always a point of view of perspective of thinking and seeing all these people who would exercise, let's say, I don't want to say incorrectly, although I would say incorrectly, but let's say haphazardly. They are just, it's hard for me to go to the gym now. Yesterday we were at the gym and I'm not trying to be a biatch. I want to go over to the girls with the weights and say, can I please ask you what you think you're doing? Like, I just want to know, what do you think you're benefiting from? What muscles are you trying to target? What benefits and results do you expect to get from this exact thing that you're doing? You know why? Because they wouldn't have an answer. They wouldn't know any of that. And I could tell by the way they're working out. So for me, I was harping on joints and joint structures and keeping your cartilage and doing things smart. Do it smart. If you're going to do it and you're dedicated, awesome. Now, let's do it in a way that preserves your joints for the rest of your life instead of wear them down so quickly. And then you're going to have joint pain. Then you're not going to want to work out. Then you're going to go back to where you started. So to me, again, I have this prevention perspective always. If I know that something is not good for me, why am I going to dance with the devil, so to speak, and like keep inviting it in? Why am I not going to make a different choice? So that's sort of, again, from all aspects, all angles, including emotions. So back to the back pain story quickly. It's just when you have back pain and you do all the physical things, and what I've learned from my personal training career is that when you try a lot of physical things and it's still there, it's not physical, it's emotional. And then between that and the reason I started my show in the first place, which was to save my marriage, and taking the tools I was learning and then learning more tools, and bringing on guests that would help teach me, and hopefully my partner who might've been listening, which wasn't, but everybody else in my audience, right? Like I just kept bringing in more information because I'm a fixer. I'm a problem solver. I'm a really damn good problem solver in all kinds of areas. And so when I don't have a tool in my toolbox to fix this thing, I go get more tools. So that's kind of, and I've really collected a humongous toolbox full of things that I get to intuitively personalize for people, as well as teach them about on my show, and really come in, personalized to say, this is what you may need to do whatever you want to do. And so when I wanted to leave and like distance myself from the personal training world, and again, Fit to Love was the book I wrote about attracting the love of your life, which by the way is you, but really it came from the place of self-love and self-care. And about self-care, exercise, nutrition, fitness, meditation, vacations, whatever, all the things you do for self-care, therapy, coaching, that comes from a place of self-love and respect, not from a place of the other half of the people that go to the gym or exercise. You can feel them thinking, God, I hate this. God, I hate this. God, when is this over? When is it going to be over? Right? Or, oh, I hope this works so somebody will love me. It's like, that's to me, the extremes of the fitness industry. You're either in it because you care about the way you look and feel and you care about your future, or you hate it and you feel like it's punishment. And it's this disconnect of it's only about your identity is based on and your self-worth is based on what you look like. And that I've never been into or like. I'm over here. So from there, that still isn't, self-care is also what you think about. Self-care is how you deal with your emotions or learn how to process them, which most people don't do at all very well. So I've kind of, again, just through time, and that's how it got created. I was like, okay, it's left and right brain. I am 50-50 brain. And we're all 50-50 brain, but I have a pretty good neurological activation on both sides of my brain. So while I was a singer, dancer, right brain, emoter, all the things, I'm also strategic. I'm really good at strategy, and I'm pretty smart. So we take all those things, put them together. I needed a right brain word and a left brain word. I need a feeling component and a strategy component because they're both needed. So that's how I came up with Empowerment Strategist.
That's great. So, yeah, and have you ever heard of the phrase utility curves?
No.
Oh, so because what you were talking about reminded me of this lesson in business school, where it actually was about the example was, and this is a long time ago, but when you want to have a good body, why are you eating the cookie? And that's what brought in this visualization. Like right now, the utility you get out of eating the cookie, is high, and then later on down the line, the utility goes down. And the utility of being in good shape, right, that goes up, right? So the curves are not aligned, which causes this dissonance in the behavior. And it sounded to me like the work you do is harmonizing the utility curve. So you take more holistic kind of long-term perspective on your actions and try to align your actions with what you actually want to have happen both now and in the future.
Yeah, and I'd say what the most important word that you said there is aligned. So I teach quantum physics and law of attraction. And so there's something about alignment of self and intuition. I have an intuition course, and part of that alignment is going to be personal versus someone else telling, right? And again, there's that 80-20 of, while it may be strategic and it might make sense, we have to take into consideration the person's human experience, and that contrast or negative things or problems, so to speak, disease, whatever. These are messengers put in our path in order for us to fine tune, make different decisions, and then learn more and even grow and be better. They're not like, oh, I did something bad. This is how I'm out of balance. Oh, thank you for letting me know I'm out of balance. Here's my indicator to show me I need to get back into balance. And so alignment is definitely like throughout everything that I do. And I think that curve that you're talking about, based on a person's like where are they starting and where do they want to go and what's the path that they're going to be on unique to them. And sometimes, many times, most people don't learn things until they are smack in their face, uncomfortable, pushed up against the wall because they didn't want to make a decision for whatever reason. And now all of a sudden their results and their consequences have put them in the corner where now they are forced to make the decision that they could have made a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And now, but that's their path. That's what most people don't act based on prevention. They act based on pain. And I'm trying to appeal to those that have had the pain, but know that they see it too. I'm like, I appeal to sort of the older souls that are looking and craving in deeper connections and understandings of things, and care about their body and care about their money and care about all the surface things that, in this human experience, but really have a much broader perspective.
Well, I'm intrigued by the concept of emotional back pain. And I kind of wanted to go back a little bit and talk about that for a second and ask you if when you've identified an emotional pain like that, could you talk a little bit about what you do, like how you would guide someone to deal with that type of a physical ailment based on an emotional cause?
Sure. Well, how I like to just even out the playing field of the listeners right now and anyone new to this concept, just think about what happens to you personally when you get embarrassed. What physical thing happens when you get embarrassed? You get flush. You get flush.
Yeah.
Right. How about
shoulders down?
Right. How about when you're nervous?
Tight.
Get tight muscles, butterflies in the stomach, right? Okay, these are physical manifestations of an emotion. So on that very top surface level, now imagine that you have deep-seated resentment, rage, anger.
Clenching.
Hold on to that long enough, that becomes cancer or back pain, right? Each area of the body, and it lines up with chakra energy, it lines up with organ energy, right? So your heart chakra. I deal with a lot of cancer patients who literally have had like multiple cancers in the same area, and they have never looked at the emotions underneath the hood for that. So back pain generally, based on the work of Dr. John Sarno, he wrote Healing Back Pain. He wrote the Mind Body Prescription, and he has maybe one other book after that, but he's no longer with us. But Dr. John Sarno, who's not woo-woo at all, that man, if you ever watch him on video, boring as hell. Oh my God, so straight, like deadpan. I was thinking he'd be more energetic, not at all. But his book, Healing Back Pain, by reading it alone, I have had people reduce by 50% or more their back pain just from reading the book.
Wow.
So back pain generally is usually repressed rage. And we have to think about where in Chinese medicine, the liver is where you hold anger, and the liver is in the lower jiao where the lower back is. Right. So we can look at different modalities and methodologies of education to layer and sort of make decisions. So case by case, it's going to be different. But yes, there are sections of the body. In fact, I have this really great book called Messages from the Body, and it literally is like 700-800 pages, and it goes through every finger, every joint, every tooth, in terms of its emotional root of what started.
That's really excellent. That's amazing.
Yeah. So it's going to be personalized, like what's right for somebody. Obviously it's subconscious rage in the lower back. So someone's not necessarily going to know what it is because that's why it's subconscious. Right. But tapping into that and finding a healthy way to express. And I have tons of courses and the work that we do to do that and to find where that is. It may not be one session or two sessions, especially when it's about a practice of releasing things we're holding on to. But generally speaking, I've got tons of different ways to assess and connect what it is. And then what to do about it is based on all kinds of personalized things, right? In terms of what you're willing to do, what's the most, what you've done and what you've tried and hasn't worked, looking at that.
Right.
So
well, thank you for answering that.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out in my head, picture what a session with you actually looks like. Like, is it you and a client or a patient like sitting on a couch and talking through things, or is it like you're in a gym and or like how do you actually work with people?
So to be honest, I only usually promote, I'm obviously on your podcast right now, we're talking about it, but I only really work with people that listen to my show. And part of that is because I don't have to do this. Here's what I do. Not that I'm going to answer this question. In terms of like, if someone was to come to me and say, hey, I want to work with you, most of the time they're coming because they already know, like, and trust me. That's what the podcast does. And they already know what kinds of topics I cover. They understand my point of view, and they, again, know, like, and trust me. So by the time they get to me, they're ready to like go, which is what I prefer, because otherwise then I have to explain, here's what I do.
Yeah, no,
here's
that's
what I-"
great.
Right.
That's a
And
great strategy. That's
it just cuts the fat of like,
yeah.
I'm not out there to sell. I have my live event coming up in October, and every year at my live event is when I fill my like year-long programs or my 6-month programs. But when people come, what I love about my events compared to like other people's conferences, if you will, is they invite all these people to come, and then nobody knows who anybody is except the person whose conference it is. And there's a lot of time spent in selling you on who I am, why you should trust me, what I've
Right.
accomplished. Here's my, right. It's like, oh, and I'm like, God, just listen to my damn show. I love when people show up and they're ready to get to work. Like, we like roll up the sleeves and we're getting in there and we're doing the work that you can't do by listening to a podcast, the work you can't do by reading a book, the work you can't even do by seeing a therapist or a coach one-on-one. It's like a whole nother level, but we get in there and we go deep fast and we like work on stuff. People transform in a weekend. And that's what I love to do. So if someone's coming to me for sessions, first of all, I don't do one, I do 2. So my first starter pack is a 2-session starter pack. And the reason it's 2 is because I used to do these elaborate, like, again, from mind, body, soul, blah, 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 the whole thing, nutrition, exercise. Like, I would overload somebody in one session with I wanted to give them everything, the kitchen sink. Here's all the things I think you should do. And then of course, what would happen? They don't do any of it. Why? Because I overloaded you with too much stuff. So we start with 2, to see if this is going to work for you and this is a fit. And then you come and tell me what you want. Some kind of homework happens, and maybe listen to a couple shows. I use my podcast as an archive of teachings, so I don't have to repeat myself 20 million times. I said, go listen to this before you come back and do these things. And sometimes there are exercises. I have a core wound exercise, which gets to it. Core wound exercise can take away 5 years of therapy if your therapist doesn't take you down the right paths, because it's like you're talking about the same story over and over again. And you can come out of therapy after years not even being able to identify what your core wounds are, what emotional triggers happen after that, and how do you respond every time. I can give you that in an hour. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to be over it. It just identifies the pattern. So again, it depends on what somebody wants coming in. And I would say the people that usually work with me know that I'd say really, they want to be happier in every way. They want to save a relationship. They want to heal the disease that they're dealing with. They want to find their life purpose because they're in their 50s or 60s and they're tired of giving to their family and their kids and their wife and their husband and whoever. And it's their turn. They want to know how to create internal happiness that doesn't rely on anybody else. And that's usually why people are attracted to me.
So what I'm getting is a picture of a very holistic approach to health, not just mental health and physical health, but just, with short-term goals, long-term goals, vision of self. And of course, as you know, you're on the Healthier Tech podcast. And so with that perspective, which I feel actually this is a really cool opportunity to speak to, because there's not a whole lot of people with that broad a set of perspectives on these issues. What types of effects are you seeing? Because tech is so important to people's lives these days. What type of impacts are you seeing, whether they be physical, like, as you mentioned, back pain? I know back pain can be a huge issue for some people who use their, just as a basic example, use their computers with a bad posture. But what types of effects are you seeing amongst your clientele from their relationships with technology? And I know that's not a simple question, but
so years ago, probably was 2000. I launched my show in 2014. So I'm going to say 2015 is when I had Dr. Elizabeth Plord on, and she did a whole show on EMFs. So it's been a while. So not everybody has heard that show because it only lives on Fit to Love. It might not live on any other channel. And I've got 4 more shows that go out every week alongside that. So knowing that some people heard that and maybe made choices based on that, but it's been a while. So it's a good refresher to look at, what are we doing to protect ourselves from electromagnetic frequencies and their disruption of our energetic fields, our intuition, our body's ability to heal, our parasympathetic state of being, which is where we heal ourselves. And not too many people understand. I mean, they do, but I would say where I'm seeing that effect is, for me, it's about addiction. What do we do that keeps us out of balance? And technology, while it's necessary, can be an addiction, because even last night with one of my clients who I've had literally before I started my show, She was a personal training client turned, like, she's just been with me since 2009. She even admitted, we did her core wound work last night, and she admitted that she said, sometimes I'll take all of the shifts at work in order to avoid putting myself out there, because she wants to make connections and find a partner. And it's, so people do that with technology. They don't, and I am guilty of it too. I'm guilty of it. I don't have a smartphone, which at first I had a big, like, I don't have nope, I have a flip phone and I don't have it on me, but I have a flip phone. In fact, as I'm cleaning my office, I have like all of my flip phones. I'm like, I need to pull them out of the boxes, line them up, and take a picture of all my flip phones, because I still use a flip phone, but I use an iPad and I live on this thing. I live on it, and it's not good. But so how I create balance for myself is to, like, I had a VIP day with one of my clients yesterday, and we did it outside. So I sat outside and I tried to ground. I obviously teach grounding. I work with the earthing company. I've got earthing products. I'm affiliate of earthing products. And so having, like, sitting on a mat, which I took mine off because it was all crinkled up, or having a floor mat, how to balance out, like looking at, okay, if you have to be with a certain amount of tech for a certain amount of time, and unfortunately, maybe it's an out of balance amount of time that you're not willing to change, or you don't think you can, what can we do to support that? What kind of products can we add to help to dampen the amount of exposure? I do have the glasses, but they don't look so good. Like, from the blue light from the screens.
I'm wearing them right now.
Are you? Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, they're clear.
Yes.
Mine aren't clear. Mine are yellow, the blue blockers. I'm trying to find them because they're fun to watch, especially with you guys. I should have brought them out, but I have the blue blockers. I've had 2 versions of them, but I don't wear glasses. So I feel like I'm not going to record in these anyway. They're here somewhere. Obviously I don't use them very much. I don't know where they are, but so things like blue blockers, things like mats and pads and cell phone protectors. And that's part of it. But the other part is the relationship to the device, the relationship to your work. I said to her last night, you do realize that's workaholism. That's the addiction where you're out of balance because you're afraid. So what's underneath this is you're afraid. So you're rationalizing, I'm going to work more, I'm going to make more money, which is good, but it doesn't get you what you want, which is personal connection with new people. Mm-hmm. So I look at that, at tech, from life balance, and then the health effects or bad effects, right, from what they're exposed to, and then try to balance that by. I mean, Doug and I moved last year. We have a half of an acre backyard and a pool. We try to be outside as much as possible. We exercise outside 3 days a week. We don't sleep with our phones in the room. Although with that said, we do listen to something, and it's through a phone, but the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth is shut off. Like it's as best as I can get it, because they're binaural beats and I want to listen to them. And I do need some kind of tech to do it, because I have to be in your ears. It can't just be on a speaker. But so it's trying to balance the exposure. There's nothing on in the room that is active and can ring, but the battery's still there, right? So that's how I look at it when dealing with clients, and because I recognize, like what you said, it's necessary, absolutely, but it becomes out of balance and it becomes dangerous, and sometimes we have to start planning for how can we again balance that out.
So that question of balance, I think, is really key.
Yeah.
And I appreciate your discussion on how you approach that for yourself. How do you, I guess if someone's already working with you, they know they want to change something. And so maybe they're more willing to modify their behaviors with tech, their relationship with tech. But how do you actually work with a client to get them, over that hump with tech in particular? Because you mentioned addiction, and that is, that's a serious issue, and it's a real issue when it comes, especially with phones, but not just with phones. And so even if someone wants to make a change, it's not necessarily so easy. And so how is it that you find success with that particular set of challenges?
So how I handle addiction in general is that it's 2-part. It's never about the thing, right? So it's not the alcohol didn't make you an addict. You're trying to numb something, right? It's not the cocaine. It's really it's not tobacco. Once 72 hours has passed, tobacco's out of your system. It has nothing to do. So everyone's like, oh, addicted to smoking. Yeah, no, the tobacco's out of your system in 72 hours. So you're no longer, it's not about the substance changing your chemistry in your brain. It's about you repressing emotion, period, end of story. That's all what addiction is. I can't sit still and just be, because God forbid I'll feel something that's uncomfortable and then I won't know what to do with it. I'm afraid of that because it could take me down a hole I can't get out of. So let's not even go there. Let's just numb it. So so I take it from two angles of, it's not about the thing, right? But there is a habit that's in place. That's why it's funny because people say, oh, what with smoking, it's a oral fixation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
BS. It's total BS. So it's called you're fidgety and nervous and you repressed with this. And now this isn't here. You're pressing with something else, but it could be switching from smoking to being addicted to your phone or to control issues. It's not BS on that one. Okay. It's about the emotions, but people don't look underneath the hood. That's the problem. So there's two parts of this. One would be you have a certain habit that takes up a certain amount of time in your day. And it's something you're so ingrained, you're neurologically programmed for it. We can't just deny that that's there. Is if we're going to wean you off of this habit, we do need some kind of replacement. So it's not about not doing it. It's about what are you doing instead? So in the case of sitting in front of your computer, if I'm sitting at my computer, and Doug does this beautifully now. He has since moving to California anyway, and he did it in DC. It's like, oh, I have to go outside. He used to always be like, I have to go outside. And in DC is because it's not summer and sunny and nice all the time versus in California. I'm like, it's like this all the time. You can calm down. You can, but now it's about the disconnect of, I want to get away from my computer and I want to get away from work, and I'm going to go in the garage and work on my car. I'm going to go take a walk outside. I'm going to go in the pool. I'm going to go trim the bushes. I'm going to go work on the roses, whatever. So going outside and resetting, animals do it all the time when they reset their bodies. That's why they stretch and do certain things when they get up from a position. So I would say balancing that out and having a break. And there are plenty of methods that people have out there for doing that. There's like little devices you can get that like buzz and make you get up. Like, I don't want to wear a device like that, just because to me, I'd be annoyed at some point, or having an alarm, or like, I'd like to gamify it. Like if you go outside, you log how much time, and then you start to make it like, oh, look at me. I spent 30 minutes today outside because I took 10 minutes in between each interview and I went outside. So we do need to slowly reprogram and make a new neural pathway for another option you can replace that behavior with. But then I'm always going to want to look under the hood and say, what are you hiding from? What are you running from? What are you numbing from? Because without that, you're just going to keep replacing it. So that's why I mean, it's not about the thing. It's about what you're not willing to sit in. We're never going to really change it until we look at what you're trying to run away from. But some people aren't ready for that. So let's just start to replace it easily and see if your nervous system calms down a little bit. And then okay, cool. And then we can get a little bit deeper and see, again, what the problem is that you're trying to numb.
What types of benefits because even if someone comes to you with a strong desire for self-improvement to align their goals with their actions, they might not necessarily see maybe the same damage that they're experiencing from their relationship with their phone that you see from them. What types of benefits or improvements, just a few examples, are you seeing, or do your clients realize once they start making those changes?
I talk a lot about anxiety on the show. People think anxiety is like a disease or a problem. Like, oh, I have anxiety. I'm like, oh, okay. You know what anxiety is? It's a body sensation. It means you're holding on to an emotion that needs to be released or processed. And the more you have, the more you're trying to hold it down, which is what this anxiety is. It's holding it down, right? So people who can have an outlet for that, whether it be exercise, going outside, disconnecting, that starts to come down a little bit. And then what happens is people sleep better. They find that their digestion improves because they're not always nervous all the time, right? So I see things change in their life. And for some people, they finally get a good night's sleep, which helps with the disease, right? It helps their blood work. It helps them focus better. They're full of encouragement. And sometimes they get clarity on something that they've been stuck in, from a quantum physics perspective. The frequency of a problem is different than the frequency of the solution. But when you're in the frequency of the problem, you can't see the solution because you're literally attached to this spinning negative, your head's down. And when you disconnect, you allow space to have the idea you're looking for come to you. It happens to me every time I exercise, every time. especially alone, I'm doing cardio. I will get some great idea and answer some question, and like light bulbs happen all the time because I'm outside, I'm with the earth, I've got music on, my body's moving, everything's moving, and this channel opens up. So I think, when we disconnect from our technology, we allow in our intuition. We allow in awareness, consciousness, like what's going on with me. When someone's focused, especially, this is no disrespect, like men are single focused. So when a man is literally focused on whatever he's focused on, he's denying everything else. That's why sometimes men die faster, right? Because like you have all the symptoms of heart attack coming, but you ignore them all because you're trying to hunt the deer, and all of a sudden, boom, dead, right? But did you see it coming? Well, but that's just, you're built to focus on one thing. But when we stop and like are in our bodies and go, hey, I have this like weird pain here. Like, what's that about? Like when we catch it early, we can do something about it. So I see lives change by coming more into the body, by coming more in the moment, and not being all like, and this addicted adrenaline rush of, I have to make more money, I have to do this business, I have to get this thing, I have to finish this. It's all this fight or flight, right? That's what we get into with technology. We are asked to think and process at a speed that's not humanly possible. And so we tax our adrenals, we tax our hormones in ways we are not designed to do. So by taking a step away from technology, or having balance, streamlining, being more efficient, adding balance, adding the things that you can to make it a healthier experience, will help to, again, help you sleep better. Weight loss happens, happiness happens, clarity happens, less, you feel less stress, your anxiety comes down, you get more excited, you have clear mind. So I think I've seen all of that happen.
Sorry, that's really great. It's actually been a reoccurring theme in some of our interviews lately of just slowing down and creating the space for clarity and intuition. Intuition has been a definitely a recurring theme, and I think there's a lot of truth in that. And I'm hoping that our listeners definitely take that nugget of like just slowing down and disconnecting, especially if you're feeling stuck or you're not feeling well. What's your body telling you? Stop and listen.
Or did you have something you wanted to add to
Oh,
that?
no, sorry.
I think he was waiting for me to ask a question. I'm like, no, I'm just making a statement.
Yeah, okay. No, that was the, I have to say, and this is now, we're a good way into the third season. And that was by far the most detailed description of the benefits of disconnecting or maybe just rationalizing your relationship with technology. And I guess it shouldn't be a surprise given how holistic your approach is to health and personal improvement. But that was I really appreciated that you walking us through that. That was a really great picture that you painted. Thank you.
Welcome.
So you mentioned earlier that you have an event coming up in October, the Awaken Your Dream Life event. Can you share a bit about that and maybe how people who are interested can learn more?
Sure. Well, first I can tell you, if you're at all interested in this conversation and we jive, we vibe, you haven't gotten pissed off yet, or because it happens, and that's okay. That's okay. I'm not for everybody. If you are someone who wants change and you're serious about taking action and you believe in yourself and you invest in yourself, then I'm your girl. If you're someone who is going to tiptoe and get offended all the time, I'm not your girl. So Awaken Your Dream Life is a 3-day event in October 14th to the 16th in Redondo Beach, California. And again, I really would love anyone who's interested, please listen to the podcast first, like really kind of listen to a couple episodes, make sure we're in alignment, because when you get there, you will be asked to grow. You will be asked to go outside of your comfort zone pretty much the entire time. But that's where change happens, is when you want something more than you're used to. In order to do that, you got to go somewhere you haven't been before. So we have to stretch. And we're just going to be working on activating and embodying the 4 different quadrants. Some of the work I'm going to be doing is based on the work of Jo Bolte-Taylor. She's a neurosurgeon and neuroanatomist. I'm sorry, she's not a surgeon. She's a neuroanatomist, and she wrote the book. The first book was My Stroke of Insight. She had a stroke, and she wrote, 8 years took to come out of that, but she wrote the book about having her left brain offline and living in her right brain. And she was so excited actually while she was having her stroke, like, cool, I'm going to get to learn what this is like from the inside. And then coming out of that, she wrote another book called Whole Brain Living, and she divides the brain into 4 parts, not 2. And so from those 4 parts, those 4 characters, those 4 choices, those 4 neural pathways, we don't all live in a full brain. And most of us have a dominant neurological circuitry patterned already set up based on our parents, based on the way we were told to live, based on a lot of things. And there are so many, but we can't have different experiences in life, and we can't get to whatever we think is our dream life without activating the other parts. But they may be new to you and you may not know how. And even if you know how, it may scare the crap out of you. So this is a place to come and literally like create new neural pathways into different parts of your brain and allow yourself to expand and grow and be different and embody that thing you want, that person you want to be, that life you want to have. And there's really no other way around it. You can't think about it and you can't talk about it. You have to do it. So at my events, we do it. We do things. We don't just talk about things. It's not like it's me mostly. There's not like a bunch of speakers. It's just me and you and the group. And we do exercises and we have a good time and people laugh, people cry, and people's lives change. And that's what happens.
That sounds powerful. Yeah, I have no problem believing that that's a pretty active event given my exposure with you today. So you'd mentioned your podcast. The listeners can find those, all of them, at jjflizanes.com, and the links there will be in the show notes. Are there other places you'd like our listeners to kind of connect with you or link up?
Let's see. So I have a free workshop that I did. If anyone's interested, it's called The 3 Reasons Why Talk Therapy is Ineffective. I don't know if that's something that might interest people. So that's jjflizanes.com/therapy. And it goes over the reason why, again, the kind of work that I'm doing in coaching, and I even have a coaching certification where I'm training other people to do what I'm doing. It's sort of like my perspective and why over the years, even as, I'm not a therapist, and I would be challenged on this all the time with my last relationship. Who are you to say you don't have the degree? Blah, blah, blah. And I, right. And I knew he was doing that though, because I was right. So the problem is that when you actually, because otherwise I was brilliant, right? With everybody else. Oh, as long as it was everybody else, spot on. With me, no, you don't know what you're talking about. But what I've noticed over the years coming out of this personal training industry into the coaching industry and like standing on stage and be like, hey, here's what I do now. I will have not the same, but again, listeners of my show, not the average person who doesn't know me, but someone who listened to my show for a while, have a couple sessions and be like, I got more out of 2 sessions with you than I did 6 years in therapy. It happens all the time. But there are reasons, there are constructs about why talk therapy is literally built to keep you in your story, which doesn't make you change. So anyway, so it doesn't mean, hey, there are some great ones out there. Power to you if you're having a great time and you're getting what you need and your life is changing. That's the key word. Your life is changing. If your life looks different, if you don't respond the same, you're on the same path. But if you just keep avoiding other people, but you still have the same triggers and respond the same way, it ain't working. So it's 3 reasons why talk therapy is ineffective. jjflizanes.com/therapy. It's a free workshop and it can at least give you some structure to go, oh, and there's a tool in there too. There's a tool that you can use that I teach you. It's called the feelings and needs list. And this is an invaluable tool that if you do nothing else, if you just master this, your life will improve at least by 50%, I promise, and your emotions. This tool is very important. So you can get that in that workshop.
Excellent.
Yes,
thank you. Yeah. So again, that's jjflizanes.com, and we'll have the links in the show notes. JJ, thank you so much. This has been an amazing conversation. I really appreciate you taking the time to come join us on the Healthier Tech podcast.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ara and Stephanie. It was a pleasure having you. Thank you for your great questions and for the work that you're doing in the world also, because we need to, you can't run away from technology, and we really need to get a handle on our relationship and responsibility to what it does to us and to the world. So thank you for what you're doing too.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Healthier Tech Podcast. Remember to check the show notes for all the links and resources mentioned in the show. Please like and subscribe to the Healthier Tech Podcast on Apple, Spotify, or your podcast platform of choice. Get your free quick start guide to building a healthier relationship with technology and our latest information at healthiertech.co.